I was looking at MSTR this morning.
Hmm.
Um, Let me pull it up again.
Oh yeah, it's
MicroStrat.
it's dumping a bit. Bombaclat. Am I on? Shit, dude. Hold on a second.
And it's pulled back from $550 all the way to sub 300.
Mm.
So there's about a 40 some percent pullback on MSTR. Um, I think, I could be wrong, but I think Bitcoin's going to have a tough time gaining dominance again and really pumping hard if MSTR continues to bleed like this. It's been kind of front running Bitcoin the entire cycle so far. So I think without the support of MSTR, Bitcoin's gonna struggle to regain dominance. But I think for the point where we're at in the cycle, it's time for Ethereum to start gaining dominance, really start outperforming Ethereum. ETH BTC chart to start bottoming out and start heading the other direction. Which, for anyone that watches the stream, if they're invested similar to us, which I'm assuming they probably are, that's a good thing. So I don't know what you see here, but I don't know how much I see this chart coming back this cycle, or at least not in the short term.
Hmm.
Um, it got pretty ripped up. So
So you think? So that's interesting. So you think MSTR would dictate how Bitcoin does? So like you think
I
of this? Uh huh.
good.
So I was saying, you think that if this keeps nuking, that Bitcoin is gonna nuke too?
I think so. I don't think it's going to nuke. I don't know how much lower it's going to go here. It might just range here for a little bit and then pump up again before it, just starts bleeding for quite a while. But MSTR has been front running Bitcoin this entire cycle. It's been a really good determinant of how Bitcoin's going to perform.
Right.
And obviously, Michael Saylor's a pretty massive holder of Bitcoin now. um, and he also drives a lot of the hype and shit around Bitcoin. So, yeah, this has been front running Bitcoin all cycle. Um, if this chart continues to bleed, Bitcoin's going to have a tough time, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, Bitcoin is definitely recovering a little bit better already than MSTR is.
Right.
So yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe it just starts outperforming MicroStrategy and MSTR just kind of falls off. The hype falls off of it for this cycle, and
Right.
Bitcoin just can perform without it.
So yeah, it's interesting because MSTR, the idea of people investing into it is because it's going to be a levered Bitcoin. That's the way that Michael Saylor has pitched it and sold it to people. And that's basically how he makes his money, is that what he does is he sells the volatility on Bitcoin to people that come to him for to buy it, right? So how does MSTR make money? They don't necessarily make money from simply the purchasing of Bitcoin. What he does is he buys Bitcoin and then he sells the volatility of Bitcoin to other investors who don't have access to the Bitcoin market directly, because outside of the ETF, the Bitcoin ETFs that were approved, TradFi still can't technically have direct exposure to Bitcoin, right? So that's the way he's pitched it. Now, I don't think that MSTR would dictate how Bitcoin would perform moving forward. Like if MSTR did start breaking down even further and start shitting itself, I don't think that would pull Bitcoin down with it. But Bitcoin would pull it up if Bitcoin starts pumping again, which we think it will. Now, what you said about front running it, though, I'm pretty sure you might be right on that. So let me see. Because I know in the past it had front run Bitcoin. I'm just trying to see if we can get like a good view on a timeline, what that looks like.
Yeah, and I guess when I say front run, maybe outperforming is the better word. It's like whenever Bitcoin starts to move slightly, MSTR tends to outperform it. And by front running, it's like whenever MSTR is having, a 20 to 30% move off
Mm-hmm.
of a, 3 to 5% move on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look back at the beginning of the year, like February, March time, or during that initial big pump on both of them, During that time, I think Bitcoin pulled a move from 40 to about 65,000,
Right.
where you saw MSTR pull a move from 45 to like 150. So it's like MSTR pulled a 4x, Bitcoin pulled about a 50% move.
Right.
So yeah, MSTR has been a good indicator this cycle. Whenever you really see it start to fly, you kind of know that Bitcoin's going to follow, just not as aggressively. But obviously now, I mean, we can see it pretty clearly today. Bitcoin is already recovering from the FOMC bleed a lot quicker than MSTR is.
Right.
So yeah, you're probably right. I think that it's just going to be a shift in what kind of indicators you can use to predict the movement on Bitcoin. Because I don't think MSTR for the rest of the cycle, based off of the chart right now, is going to be a very good indication of what Bitcoin's going to do.
Right. So this is interesting because I'm trying to line up the moves on Bitcoin to MSTR and see who's doing what. You're right in the sense it is levered. So MSTR is a levered Bitcoin. So it's 3x levered to the upside, but levered is also 3x to the downside. So as Bitcoin drew down 14, 15%, MSTR had a much larger bleed. So if we take a measured, I just want to mark this out too. So if we take a measured move on MSTR from its high, yeah, see, it's down fucking, it doesn't seem like that much, but it's down almost 50% compared to Bitcoin from that same point. I know from here. So MSTR actually did to the where it's at right now. Well, let's just do it to the low. Yeah, 12%. So yeah, it is a levered Bitcoin. So it makes sense why it moved like that. It also is levered to the upside. So let's just see what it looked like from like here. Fuck. Almost a 5x. Let's do it from here, right? Yeah, I mean that's a 2x basically. So so I mean there you go. So it's like a 2.5, 3x levered Bitcoin. So it is behaving how it's supposed to be behaving. It's supposed to be behaving. So to the downside, it's much more pronounced. To the upside, it's more pronounced. So it is a levered Bitcoin. So I think it's just whatever Bitcoin does is going to be how MSTR performs moving forward.